Hey, it's Dave. Welcome to the channel. A lot of times a student, when I'm teaching them a song, will ask me, like, what's the difference between the C add 9 or the C9? And they don't really understand add chords or building dominant chords or any extension chords. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. When we have the key of C, we have all the natural notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then back to the root C. And with that, we can build all the triads. We can build C from C, E, G, which is what a C chord is. When we play it on the guitar, we play C, E, G, C, E. I always like to play C, E, G, C, G, and use the G on the top. When we talk about playing a seventh chord, we talk about playing C, E, G, and B. This is a C major 7 chord, which is the 1 chord in the key of C. Now there's two other majors in the key of C. There's F and G. The F, when we add the 7, is an F major 7. Now this is because the E on the top is a half step from the root, also making it a major 7. The G, however, has an F on top, and this is a whole step, and this is a dominant 7. So the G7 chord is a dominant chord. Now, in the key of C, it's a G, it's the 5. The 5 is always going to be the dominant chord in a major scale. And just for the sake of chord building, we're going to go to the key of D, where the 5 chord is an A. So now, if we're chord building and we're going to play an A7, we're going to play A, C sharp, E, and G, which we can play it like A, E, G, C sharp, E. It's an A7. Now, when we say A9, when we play an A9 chord, we're now adding onto the 7. So an A9 chord is going to have A, C sharp, E, G, and B. A, G, C sharp, B, E. There's an A9. Now if we were to play an A add 9, we would play A, C sharp, E, and just the 9, which would be the B, no G. And that would look like this. A, C sharp, B, E. So the difference between an add 9 is in an add 9 we're adding a 9. In a 9 chord, like an A9, we take from the 7 and the 9. The same goes for like an 11 chord. Now I talk about this chord all the time because I love the A11 or the 11 in general. And that is when you add the A, C sharp, E, G, B, and D. And you can look at it and you can see that it's a G on top of an A major triad. Now, in this particular case, there would be 6 notes. And a lot of times on guitars, you're playing substitution chords of lesser notes so you can play them in. So, for instance, I would play the A11 like this, which would be A, G, B, D, E. We can look at this as the root, 7, 9, 11, 5. Now with this, you can call this chord obviously other names as well. Now some people don't like to call that chord an 11 chord because it's a substitution and they don't see it that way. A lot of pop music players that I know call it an 11 chord, but some people like to call this chord a G6 over an A, because I am playing the E. If I have the A on top, you can call it a G add 9 over A. Still, to me, this would be an A11. Or, if I play the original chord that I was playing, a lot of jazz guys will look at this chord as an A9 sus4. And so that would be the A, the G is the 7, the B is the 9, the D would be the sus4, and you would have no 3. And that's okay to call it that too. I know a lot of jazz guys prefer to call it that because they don't like 11 chords. They prefer like sharp 11 chords, but that's another day. So there's many ways you can call that chord, and that's why a lot of times you'll see, people will comment on my page, and they'll be like, that chord's called this. It's like, you can call it whatever the fuck you want. There's so many different names to call a chord. Some people will say, like this, well, you could call that an A augmented or an A sharp 5. It's the same chord. It doesn't matter. Personally, I would call it a sharp 5 just because I think in the whole numbers thing. But augmented's not wrong. But if I say sharp 5 and you're right, actually it's called an augmented, you're an idiot. Because it's the same thing and it doesn't matter. You can call certain chords whatever you want because music's about communicating. So when you're communicating to the person who you're playing with, you can pretty much find out what they call things. And if you're doing a session or whatnot and somebody has on a chart a chord, and you listen back and you're like, oh, I would call it this, you can change it and handwrite it yourself. Here's a C add 9 chord. Now, I use this a lot against a G5. And this is a C with a 4th string muted, C, G, D, G. I don't have a third. I could add a third. Still a C add 9. Sometimes when I'm playing, I'll use the D to E as like a pump in the song. But I don't have to keep it playing it the whole time. So that's like a C add 9, and here would be a C9, which is C, E, B flat, D. And one of my favorite chords is a C9 sharp 11, where we now have the F sharp on the top. And this chord actually is really cool. It comes from the melodic minor scale. If you take a G melodic minor, which is you have a raised 6 and 7, so we have the minor third. So basically it becomes like a G major scale with a flat third. So you have the E and the F sharp. And because of that you have, that's a nice chord. And I love that chord. But yeah, so if you were playing this chord, you could play F sharp altered. Just showing you how you can build chords. So if we went to the original, we had C major 7. If we lift up the pinky and we have the D, it comes a C major 9. So we have the B and the D against the C. And because we say the word major before the 7, we're implying that the 7 is a half step from the root. A lot of people get confused because when they hear C major 7 and C minor 7, they think that it means the same thing, that they relate to the same thing, and they don't. In a C major 7, the 7 is major 7. It's C and then major 7, the major 7 being a half step from the root. In a C minor 7, the chord is C minor and the 7 is alone, and it's a whole step from the root. If you wanted to play a C minor with a 7 that's a half step from the root, the chord would be called a C minor major 7. So when you see major 7, you know that that relates to the relationship to the 7. If you see minor after the chord, that's to the chord. It has nothing to do with the 7. A C minor major 7 would look like this. Whereas a C minor 7 would be that, and a C major 7 would be this. And I hope this helps a little bit, because when I teach some of these chords and songs that I teach on the channel, they use a lot of these types of chords. So lastly, I will show you the name of a chord that most people call the Hendrix Chord. And I'll do it in E since it's the easiest, which would be in the key of A, because the Hendrix chord is a dominant 7 chord, and a dominant 7 chord happens over, it's the 5 in the scale, so E is the 5 to A. So we have this is the chord. And if we look at it, we have an E, G sharp, which is the major 3rd, D, which is the dominant 7, and G. What is G? That's not in the key of A. How can this be? Well, if we were to play this, we would be playing what's called an E9. But since we're moving this sharp, this chord is called an E7 sharp 9. There is no 5 in the chord. If you wanted, you could even move it to the bass if you wanted to have the 5 in there, but there's no 5. It's 1, 3, dominant 7, sharp 9. This chord is an E7 sharp 9. If I were to go and flat the 9 and make it an F natural, so we have 1, 3, 7, and then a flat 9, this would be an E7 flat 9. I want to thank everyone who subs my channel. I really appreciate it. Thanks for all the thumbs up and the likes and everything else. Thanks for listening to Guitar Talk with John and I. We have more shows coming. Just keep practicing your chords, your scales, everything else. Play songs. And very good.